Hi artists and art lovers. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 2, Princeton Makes podcast, where every month we meet an artist and we dive into their creative lives. So I'm Zohar Lavi-Hasson and my guest today is Cathy Daily. Hi, Cathy.
Hi, Zohar.
So, Cathy, I'm going to give you the honor of explaining what Princeton Makes is.
All right.
Us. Yes.
Okay, well, Princeton Makes is a beautiful gallery. It is a cooperative gallery of about 40 local artists. About half of us have studio space here where you can come and watch the artists create their work. The other half of us, including myself, work from home. So we have the beautiful light-filled gallery up at the front of the store in which to display our work.
How did you get here to Princeton Makes?
It's a funny story. About 3 years ago when the gallery was first getting started, I read about it in the paper and I thought, I've got to get down there and check that out. Well, a year went by or two, and then a good friend in town told me she had been here and said, you've got to go check out Princeton Makes.
Yeah.
Well, I still didn't go, and then I found myself at a holiday show down in Yardley where I met Bernadette, one of our artists here at the Co-op who makes beautiful jewelry. And she said, we have an opening. You need to come and talk to the owner and see if you can get in. So I emailed Jim and filled out the application online, and the rest is history.
Great. And Cathy is the Artist of the Month in October. And so her art is on the wall. I just saw it. It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
A little black and whitish things. And
sort of
also,
Halloween-ish.
Yes, right. And we're doing this podcast, and also we're going to have an artist talk, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But maybe first tell everybody what do you do?
Okay.
What kind of art? And
Certainly.
We'll take it from there.
Okay, so I guess what I'm kind of most well known for is my animal art. And that is artwork that is very non-realistic, sort of cartoony in style, mostly cats, dogs, and birds, and owls. Owls are a bird, but I kind of categorize them differently. So they're very whimsical, colorful, kind of graphic in quality. I actually went to school for graphic design before we had computers at our school, and I learned all of the old school art graphic design.
How do you do the graphic design without a computer?
I know, right? It was all literally cut and paste.
No, physically cut and paste?
Yeah, what takes maybe 10 minutes to knock out on the computer now would take us like a whole week back then.
That's crazy. I can't imagine.
So I finished that degree, but I decided right before graduating that I didn't want to be a graphic designer. But I took all of the information that I learned about creating, drawing with different medium, painting different medias. I value my college education, but I really started growing as an artist once I got out of college.
That's interesting.
So, yeah.
So college made you know what you don't want to do.
Exactly.
But gave you inspiration to what you do want to do.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about your journey. So after college, how did you start painting by yourself, or what?
I started working full-time as in retail management. And that's kind of what I did professionally for about 25 years in different shops, not always the same shop, in different towns too. And so I moved around a lot.
Where was this?
I started, I finished school in Mississippi.
Where did you go?
Oh my gosh.
I forgot to ask that.
It's like all over the place. I grew up in Northern California, youngest of 5 kids, and a divorce made me move with my father and my stepmother away from California.
Your mother is an artist.
She is. She is a 91-year-old spring chicken artist. Very young-hearted lady. Anyways, so I moved with my dad and stepmother to the south, to Mississippi, finished high school and college there. Started working at a retail job, a clothing store that carried really interesting imported clothing and jewelry from around the world. And they opened another location in Alabama. So when I graduated from college, I moved to Alabama and ran the store there. And they let me sell a few of my things there too. So I started creating artwork.
What kind of things? paintings?
Like paintings and things like that, yeah. And then I started making greeting cards and sold some of those in the stores as well.
Okay.
But yeah, when I first started, I could only do my artwork on the side after work or on the weekends.
Yeah.
So I didn't do a lot of things with my work yet at that point. My very first exhibit was showing 3 pieces of artwork on a wall in a department store across the hall from their gift wrapping counter. And it even got a write-up, a very tiny write-up, but it was in the paper.
Nice.
So that was my very first show. And from then on, I started creating, a bigger body of work and started selling them about once a year in local art festivals.
And was it always cats, dogs, and birds and owls?
No, in fact, I didn't do any animals at first. I did people from my imagination. And when I say my imagination, I'm kind of weird. I don't see things when I close my eyes. Like a lot of people can kind of picture something in their mind and then get it on paper. My imagination doesn't quite work that way. I don't see images, but I can think about images and, start putting them on paper. But it's always a surprise when it comes out for me because I don't know what it's going to look like.
Wow.
A few years after I started painting people, I adopted a cat. Well, she was an adorable black and white tuxedo cat, and I became obsessed with her. I loved this cat. And she had a litter of 6 kittens. I got homes for all the kittens.
Wow.
And then she was just my single cat.
Yeah.
And she became my muse. So I started putting her with the people.
Yeah.
But pretty soon I became tired of people.
Got rid of people.
Yeah, I got rid of people.
Stuck with a cat.
Exactly, went with the animals. And then pretty soon at the shows, the dog people wanted to know where the dogs were. So I said, all right, I'll start doing dogs. And then I became a fan of bird watching. And so I started adding birds into my repertoire.
Wow. And then the owls?
And the owls too, because they're hard to see.
Yeah.
It's not very often you get to see an owl. It feels like a special gift when you see one.
And you have?
And I have seen them, yes. Down in Georgia, where we used to live, in our neighborhood, every year there's a brood of barred owls. Their song, sometimes people put words with the songs to kind of remind you of what the bird's song sounds like. So this particular owl song says, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?"
That's great. So it's like a ooh, 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 like this.
Ooh, ah. Yeah.
Wow. So you hear it?
So you can hear
know
that,
what it is.
and yes.
Oh,
And
that's so cool.
one time I got to see the babies were born, and I heard the little babies in the neighborhood, and I actually got to see some of those flying around. So that was really cool.
That is cool.
But it's not very often that you see an owl.
But then, so if you want to paint an owl, how do you approach it? Because you didn't see it, you don't have a picture.
Right.
Do you go online?
Right. No. I have an idea in my mind of what an owl looks like.
Okay.
So with all of my animals, actually, I start with the eyes when I'm drawing, and I don't always know what animal it's going to be. I'll start with the eyes. If I say, like, I want to draw a cat, obviously I'm going to draw a cat. But sometimes when I'm just sort of doodling, and when I'm drawing animals, I always start with the eyes and go out from there. So once those eyes are down, I might say, this looks like it's going to be an owl eyes. And then I go out from there.
But wait, don't an owl and cat in particular, and dog, don't they have like totally different type of eyes?
They do. They do. Now, and the eyes on the cats that I make are definitely different from the other animals' eyes, but I sort of make the dog eyes, the bird eyes, and the owl eyes kind of the same.
Okay.
I met my husband, Andrew, up in North Carolina. We eventually decided to get married, and he got a job teaching at University of Georgia in Athens.
Yeah.
And so we moved down there, and let's see, I was still painting a few people down there.
Yeah.
Andrew is a really funny person.
Yeah.
And I like to laugh. I really enjoy laughter. And my animals were kind of serious at first. But Andrew, he's so funny. He loves to laugh, and he makes me laugh. He had these crazy glasses at the time.
Yeah.
They were pretty funky and stylish and
Yeah.
kind of wild. They were very big circles. And I think something about those big glasses
Yeah.
got in my mind.
Yeah.
And I started changing the eyes on my animals.
Oh.
They became funny. They
Oh.
were kind of serious, and you know, I liked them back then too, but I enjoy the laughter.
Yeah.
I enjoy clients seeing my work and thinking it's funny
Yeah.
and getting a kick out of it.
We're going to put in the show notes a link to your earlier work,
Okay.
like the serious animals.
Okay.
Also people,
Okay.
hopefully, if you're willing to share, and then also to your recent work.
Sure.
So people can see what we were talking about.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So I was working retail in a store called Helix. I worked there for probably about 5 or 6 years while we lived down there. We had a small display area right across the counter from me, and there I was able to sell my original artwork in addition to greeting cards and prints. So that was a really nice opportunity. Also downtown once a year was an art festival called AthFest.
Yeah.
And I did that every year. It was very popular, and it was a wonderful opportunity to sell my work.
Yeah.
So yes, in 2010, my husband was hired at Princeton University, and as much as we loved Athens, it was just an opportunity we could not pass up.
All right.
So we moved up to Princeton. I finally had an opportunity because my husband was bringing in more salary, a higher salary.
Yeah.
I was able to not go back to work and start focusing.
No more retail stores.
No more retail, except for Princeton Makes.
Oh, yes.
And so I was able to start focusing on my art, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So we moved into a house near campus, near town, and my art studio was in the basement. And it was wonderful because I had a place where I had no distractions and a quiet place. I could say no cat zone and just work all hours of the night down there if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But the only trouble with it was that I was in the basement and the stairs were very steep. And every time I did an art show, I had to lug all of my equipment up those stairs and then downstairs to get outside to the car.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was hard.
Yeah.
But I did it we lived there for 12 years.
And
Then we moved into our new house where we currently live.
where we used to live.
Yes,
That's
how
all in the
crazy is that?
connection.
That's so crazy.
Yes. And you built
it's-
an amazing studio there.
Oh gosh,
Amazing
I
studio.
love it so much.
Yes.
I feel so fortunate to have that.
It's beautiful. And
it's
it has big
something-
lights and
Yes.
windows. And
I wanted.
it's on the ground floor.
Yep, on the ground floor. I walk right out and straight to the car, and I'm done.
Perfect.
So I love that.
Lovely. Do you like make money out of your art? Are you in that stage of like you bring a good amount of money?
Yeah, if it's unpredictable with the shows.
Yeah.
If it weren't for my husband having the fabulous job that he has, I would definitely have to try a lot harder to make what I would need to make to live here.
Yeah.
For me, it's sort of feast and famine. So we have times of the year when we're making a lot of money, and then times when we're not making any money.
Right.
So it's the shows tend to be in the fall or in the spring. So in the cold winter after the holidays are over, that's when I'm resting and sort of filling my creative cup, getting inspiration, taking classes. I love taking online classes.
Oh. So you mentioned that you also do abstract paintings. So can you talk about that a little bit? How did that start?
Yes. It's always something that I've kind of enjoyed, but was never really serious about, just because it's kind of a fun way to let paint do its thing and not really be in control of it sometimes. In 2014, after the show season was over, and it was January of 2014, I went down to my basement studio and I just broke out my oil pastels, which are like really soft, buttery crayons,
Yeah.
and a bunch of paper, and I just started doodling and playing and having fun. And they were just these really wild, bright colored abstracts. They also were sort of animal inspired because I tended to including these sort of eyeball shapes, but I didn't let them turn into an animal. I would just turn it different directions so that I wouldn't have it be any particular direction it had to be, and to make sure that it stayed abstract. I kept flipping the page around. I had probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 that came out that first month in January of 2014. It was just flowing out of me. I didn't have to try. It was like they were coming out great over and over again. But there was a point when it stopped flowing out of me. And when that happens, and whether I'm doing my animals or the abstract stuff, I kind of just flip to the other style. Eventually, I guess my creative cup for that area of my style was filled again, and I was able to create more. I have a second abstract style. It is definitely abstract. It is not recognizable as an animal or anything like that. No eyeballs. And that one is more subtle. If you imagine an oval shape, I decided I wanted to try collage. At first, I was just cutting from magazine paper. And I wanted to kind of mimic a paintbrush stroke. So oval was my choice. So I found myself just cutting out hundreds and hundreds of oval shape from the magazines, and eventually I started putting them together, and I really, really liked the effect of it. Something about all those oval shapes laid down on the paper and overlapping each other started to look like people. And again, maybe that's how I'm going to go back to the people in an abstract way. I never even thought about that until this very moment. Now I'm not only doing it as collage where I'm cutting paper, I'm also doing it with paint. And the way that I do that is by dropping a drop of paint and then taking what's called a brayer, which is, they use it in printmaking. It's like a paint roller that's made out of rubber. And just rolling that paint that's a blob,
like smush
it into the shape of an oval. So then I can do hundreds of those and even layer them, and it's just really become so satisfying and so much fun. So
do you sell these?
Not yet.
You mainly sell your.
I haven't shown those a ton. I have one, a big one in the window right now for October display.
Got it.
Yeah. I don't want to say that I'm going to abandon my animals completely.
I can see that happening.
I think I'll come back to them eventually if I do really dive into the abstract, but I feel like I really want to. I want to go for it,
Go for it.
Yeah.
Here we are ending the season of the fall, the season of shows, so you have time to dive into that.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about shows a little bit more. We can start with, where do you find these shows?
Yeah. So when we first moved up here, I thought, how am I going to find the shows? And I started Googling around the area about local shows. And I thought, a good way for me to find out if this is a good show to do or not is to volunteer for that show. So I did. I found out about a local show. They don't do this show anymore, but it was put on by the YWCA, and it was a long-running, really well done show. I volunteered and just helped other artists, and by doing that I was able to ask the artist, how'd you do? And I could see how the show was organized and whether or not it was, and then once I saw that was a good show, the next year I applied, got in, and then I was able to network with other artists and find out about other shows. It's all really like word of mouth, or a lot of Googling, networking. Yeah.
So can you tell a little bit about the process of how do you apply? How do you get in?
Sure, absolutely. So most shows will have a website. You fill out the application. Typically, you have to include 3 images of examples of what you create, and then 1 image that shows your booth setup.
Oh.
They like for you to have the equipment, especially if it's an outdoor show. You often have to have your own tent.
Yeah.
And if you have a tent, you must have weights so that your tent doesn't fly away.
Yes, because there's always wind.
Yes, there sure is. And you know, if you don't have a tent and your work is easily damaged by water or wind, there's all kinds of risks involved.
Yes.
You have to pay.
Entry fee.
And then if you're in, you start receiving emails about promoting the show, as well as all of the instructions. To participate usually is about it could be around 100. It could be like 300.
Right, depends what show.
Exactly. Yeah. And just because a show is really expensive doesn't mean it's going to be a great show. Some of the least expensive shows that I've done have turned out to be some of the best.
Yeah. And what kind of shows do you do? Do you do small ones, the big ones? I know there are some shows are just for the public, like at Princeton there are some of those, or for the Art Council do them, and everybody comes. But some shows are more for like art collectors, right? And then people are there to buy art.
Yes.
So which ones do you do?
One of my very favorite shows in October this month, and that is Crafts in the Meadow. It's down in Bucks County, and it's in a beautiful park called Tyler State Park. There's an art center in the park, and the art center is who organizes this show. And they also have admittance charge, so the public has to pay a little charge to get in.
To get in.
I hate to say that that's what makes people more serious about buying art, but I think, because you do have to pay a little bit to come in, that,
more chances you'll buy something.
Maybe so. There might be something about that.
I mean, if you're for sure not going to buy anything, you probably won't go there.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So you do well in this one?
I do pretty well at that one. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. And it's fun too. You like it.
And it's fun. Yeah. And one thing that's really nice for me, I'm a slow setter-upper. And they allow us to come the day before. And then I can really take my time. Then I can sleep in a little bit the next day and show up.
It's it's a schlep to do these shows, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a truck?
I have a SUV. I have a Toyota Highlander. I put the seats down.
You put the tent, table. What else do you need? The art.
I mean, I have to pack that thing up. So I put in, and it all has to go in a certain order.
Of course, you
it's
already
like a puzzle.
know.
Yes, and I already know.
And your back?
And my back,
is okay.
It's better since I don't have all the stairs to deal with.
Oh yeah. Good.
But so yeah, I put in my booth walls that I hang my stuff on.
Wow.
I put in my big boxes that have smaller artwork in it.
Yeah.
I put in my heavy weights. They're about 25 pounds each.
Wow.
Ladder. Chair. Table.
All the wrapping materials.
That and all of my artwork.
Does your husband help you? No, my husband doesn't help me.
He does not.
The academic.
He says, do you want to help me write my paper? No, I'm just kidding. The thing is he helps me with the heaviest stuff, which is nice. Yes. But when it comes to sitting in the booth all day, and no way, I would not have. I would be a nervous wreck because I like for my loved ones and friends to be happy and comfortable, and I would constantly be worrying like he's not, he wants to get out of here, and
no, you don't want
so I make him stay home.
Yes, good. Write his paper.
Exactly.
Good.
And I feel really good about being able to do it all by myself.
Yeah.
Makes me feel self-sufficient, and I like that.
Yeah.
But that being said, sometimes it is hard to lift that tent at the end of a weekend. You've been working so hard.
Right.
And artists are very nice people, and there's always somebody who
Yeah.
will volunteer to help you, lift some things.
Do you
So,
already know like people that you met in certain shows in the past?
yes, some that I've been doing, year after year.
Yeah.
You see the same people,
Yeah.
and sometimes you only see them at the show.
Right.
So,
But you become like friendly and help each other.
exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's nice.
Without a doubt.
How do you feel when people come into your booth? But this is the experience that I had in a small amount of shows that I did. I get very embarrassed when people are looking at my art because I don't want them to like pretend that they like it.
Oh.
Or also I don't want them to look like they don't like it, because that's also offending.
Right.
So I'm like trying to be outside so they don't know it's me. Yeah, it's a little messy for me. How do you cope with that?
I just laugh at them. I'm somebody who I'm very comfortable laughing at myself for stupid things that I might do.
Okay, so like
And
what?
when I was still down in Athens, Georgia, there was an image that I did over and over again in different colors, and I was kind of well known for this image.
Okay.
It was the back side of a kitty cat,
Okay.
so it was called Kitty Butt. And so I always had one or two kitty butts in my booth of images.
Yeah.
And I was sort of standing behind the sheer curtain, and a lady and her mother came into the booth, and somehow they don't see me. And the mom starts laughing hysterically, and the daughter says, "Why would anybody want a picture of a cat's butthole?" And I just started laughing so hard. And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry." So I just kind of have to laugh at people.
Yes, that's
Either
nice.
they'll love it or they'll hate it, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. No, but that's good because they're saying what they're thinking.
Yes.
I'm afraid that they will have to pretend because they see me, so they're going to be like, oh, nice. Oh, I don't need them to pretend. Just hate it. It's fine.
Exactly.
I have bugs on my mug. I don't need you to love them. Some people love. That's enough.
Right.
But
I
so
love
it does.
them.
You don't get your like self-confidence hurt.
No.
No.
Absolutely not, because
good.
it is going to be something that somebody will it'll work for them or it won't. And
Right.
and I don't want them to feel like they have to buy something from me either. That's
Yes.
the other thing. Like, I don't want people to feel like they can't come in and just look and laugh and enjoy it.
Exactly. Right.
I don't want them to ever feel like they have to buy.
I think everybody thinks that. So people who are listening to us, if you go to a show, please go in and look at the art. You don't have to
Yes.
buy it. You don't have to love it. Just take a look.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or don't
Don't
enjoy
enjoy
it.
it. Or don't come in. Do whatever you want. We don't care. Like, we're cool.
Yeah.
Just hanging out.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, so are you influenced by what sells? So that makes you go back and paint more of that?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just-
Sometimes it is. So I have my my booth set up. I usually have the walls set up in my studio, and I'll kind of practice what I'm going to hang.
Yeah.
And if I'm really organized and have a lot of time to play around with new work or to create new work for the show, I'll look at the inventory like, oh, I have too many cats. I need more dogs to balance that out, or I need more birds or whatever.
Yes.
Then when it comes to things that I know are bread and butter items,
Yes.
like smaller things, I try and make sure I have plenty of small things.
Yeah.
Smaller items like greeting cards. So I like to make sure I have kind of something for everybody or every price point.
So you are aware of customers and selling.
For sure. And
Yeah.
that probably comes from my retail background
Right.
and placing orders for the store, making sure that those things that are good sellers stay
Right.
well stocked.
So you apply to a lot of these shows, and
Yes.
how do you feel about rejection? Because you probably get rejected from some of them,
Sure.
and sometimes you go to a show, you don't sell anything, or you sell very little, and there's no interest, and you feel like everybody hates your work. So how does it get to you, and what do you do if it
Well,
does?
it sucks.
Yeah.
It's too bad to get rejected, but I don't feel as bad about it as I used to. When I first started, it was really discouraging.
Yeah.
But when it happened, and it didn't happen every time, but it seems like it might have happened more in the beginning, than now.
To get rejected from a show.
Right.
Yeah.
And you kind of get in the circuit of shows that you normally do.
Right.
Just because you've been in a show year after year, though, doesn't mean that the same jury is going to choose
Sauce
you.
for the Goose just rejected me.
Yeah. It stings a little bit, but I try to turn it around into something positive. Like, well, maybe there's going to be something that I was actually, that was more meant for me happening at that same time. Okay. Or maybe I can use that time to visit my wonderful friends out of town, or my dear family.
Yeah.
So,
or make more art.
Or use that for creating time, exactly. I was rejected for something in December that is a local thing,
really?
So I was kind of bummed out about that. But, what can you do? I was also very, very last minute on the application. Okay. So there are some times when it's like, I did this show a couple years ago and I did like 4 times this amount. What happened?
Yeah.
It feels like there's really no science to it.
No science.
You can't fully depend on making that same amount every time.
Right.
It's the right person coming to connect with your work,
and
they make that connection and make the purchase. But if that piece, wasn't supposed to be with anybody that came to the show, then that's just the way that it works out. So it's
but it sucks.
It
also
sucks.
to schlep all this the equipment and everything, and then
the last
and to pay the fee and
right. And you at least want to cover your booth fee, like,
yes,
please
exactly.
let me cover my booth fee.
That's all I want.
Exactly. But the last show I did was kind of like that. I didn't do even a fourth of what I did the last time I did it.
Yeah.
But it was a gorgeous day. The location was beautiful.
Yeah.
My booth next door neighbor had a lot of really valuable information for me. And I gave her a lot of valuable information. So I think if you can turn a lousy show into a way to gain a lot of really important information, it could be even more valuable than having a great show.
Do you like to talk with people who come into your booth?
I do. You can kind of sense, like, being in retail all those years, you sort of can sense if somebody wants to be left alone.
Oh, interesting.
But I like to at least speak to everybody and welcome them and, tell them to let me know if I can help them. Some people really want to talk, though.
Yeah.
Some people want to talk your head off. And I'm I'm bad about engaging that. I will talk as long as they want to. But
why not? If you enjoy it.
And the thing that's bad about it is I might have other customers come, or they see the booth is full of people talking, so we'll come back, and they might not come back. So I have to try to politely pull away a little more than I do.
So overall, you like the shows? You like doing that? You enjoy
it?
Yeah.
So when I was in my 30s and 40s, I said, when I turn 50, I'm going to stop doing these shows. And I'm 56 and I'm still doing these shows.
Because you like them.
I like it.
Yeah,
and
it's fun.
It's a good opportunity. Yeah, it's a fun, good opportunity and a good way. When you have your work in a gallery and you're not always there, you don't hear the comments and you don't engage the clients.
Yeah.
So it's just a really, really great way to connect people to your artwork.
We are going to move on to our speedy round of questions. I'm going to ask you questions that I ask all the artists, and you're going to answer in one word.
One word.
Or sometimes I'll give you 2.
Okay.
But not more.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. What is your favorite artist of all time?
Picasso and my mom.
And your mom.
And my mom.
Good. What is your favorite material to create with?
Colored pencil.
What is the space that you feel most creative at?
My art studio.
It better be.
I think it is, yeah.
What music or podcast or nothing you want to listen to when you create?
I am a podcast listener, and my favorite is Sasquatch Chronicles.
What's
but
that?
I also love the Princeton podcast, the Princeton Makes podcast.
What is your worst artistic nightmare?
I was going to say losing my sight, but I think another artistic nightmare that I would just hate is if something of mine hurt somebody. If my artwork fell off the wall and hurt somebody, oh God. I think that would be terrible.
Not like a butthole that you see in a show. Not that kind of getting hurt. You can overcome that with some years of therapy.
Right.
Something really hitting you in the head.
That would be, I would not want my art to hurt anybody.
I hope. Okay. What is the percentage of you making art versus doing admin and selling?
So I am terrible at being a newsletter / social media poster. I do it when I do it a little bit, but I'm just not good.
Well, I need a number.
Okay. 95 to 5. I was going to say 95% creating and 5% admin.
That's good.
My goal is to have it be 80 and 20.
In one word, how do you feel when you create?
Joy.
Okay, so moving on, we're going to start wrapping up this thing, and we're going to first talk about your artist talk. When is that?
That's going to be October the 24th. It's a Thursday night. You can come for the reception about 6:30, and then I should start talking at 7 o'clock.
Okay. So come to that at Princeton Makes. And where can people find your work, except for shows? Are the shows listed on your website?
The shows, I promote the shows on my Facebook page. My Instagram is @kittybutt.
Oh.
That's an easy one to remember.
Good, yeah.
And then my Facebook is @Cathy Daily Designs.
We're going to put it in the show notes.
Great.
So I want to say also that we are going to have the show notes, and because this podcast is always about artists, and artists are so visual, I don't even know how we do a podcast about artists. So just know that there are show notes, and if you don't see them, you have to scroll a little down from the episode title and to find all the links and to see what we're talking about. So thank you, Cathy.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Great. And we are Princeton Makes podcast. Our designer is RD. Our theme music is by Renata Pugh. I'm Zohar Lavi-Hasson, producing and hosting. If you have any questions or comments, please email us to princetonmakespodcast@gmail.com. Also, let us know if you would like to be added to our mailing list so you can get our newsletter. Please rate and share this podcast so we can reach others and maybe inspire them to create. Princeton Makes is located at the Princeton Shopping Center, and we are open Thursday to Sunday, 10 to 6. Until next time, be creative and kind.
Yay!
Yay!